welcome to another cup of coffee with me, Stanley. In my lifetime, I've chatted to so many different people in various walks of life, but this time is my first. So I've never had the privilege before of having a relaxed conversation with a rabbi, and certainly not the youngest principal head rabbi of a large egalitarian synagogue in the UK. So now I want to introduce you to my guest today. He is Rabbi Benjamin Stanley, who is the rabbi of the Westminster Synagogue in Knightsbridge, London. And I think he's waiting for me in the wings. Rabbi Benji, are you there? I'm about to admit you. You are joining me now, and you'll be seeing my guest. Hello, Rabbi Benji. I call you Rabbi Benji. All your congregation call you Rabbi Benji, although you are Rabbi Benjamin Stanley. Hello and welcome. Are you off mute?
Yeah, I am off mute.
Okay,
can you hear me?
Now I can hear you, and now I can see you when everybody else can. Welcome to a cup of coffee with me. But before we start, I would just like to pay my respects to the untimely death of Lord Jonathan Sacks.
Yeah.
And I'm
yes.
sure that you too feel the same way. It's a sadness. But
yeah, no, of course. Thinking of his family, and yeah, I mean, he was a wonderful exponent for Judaism, a wonderful thinker and writer. And you can just see at the moment how many people he inspired.
okay, but now this is virtually going to be, this is your life, Rabbi Benji. I mean, I call you that, all your congregation call you that, as I've said, but I know very little about you. So during our chat today, we are all going to learn a lot more about Rabbi Benji and how you started off and all the various things regarding your life and your aspirations. I've got many questions, and as a chatter and as an interviewer, I think everybody else has as well. But I'm going to start with your parents.
Yeah.
Your father was a photographer. Your father was an ad man, but from the USA. And how did they come to meet?
Yeah, so mum and dad, they partly met through spirituality, actually. My dad did come from the States to London in the 60s as an ad man. And my mum and my dad met partly through a fairly eclectic 60s Sufi group. So they were meeting in each other's houses and having speakers and meditation. And they really connected. I mean, it was actually so in the move to London, essentially, my father's first marriage fell apart as well. It's worth saying. So, and then my mum and dad met through spirituality, and actually, they did eventually set up a business together. So even though my dad came as an ad man, he and my mum set up what we always called the photo library, which was just a place full of slides in Chalk Farm in London. And they ran that business together for a good 20 years or so. So they both took photos. I think my mum.
They were both in the arts, really. And
they were in the arts, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they gelled. I mean, I think it was hard work as well. It's definitely, I saw them working together in a formidable team, and they worked hard, and they got to take photos, but they were also taking care of a business, and they had to come home and figure that out often in the night, what to do about X, Y, and Z. So I saw they were in the arts, and they were also working hard and running a business at the same time.
You were educated in London. And
yes.
I know from just hearing from you from week to week that your passion is English language, and your command of the English language is quite incredible. And I listen to you and I think, where does he come by all those words and how does he put them all together and come up with such amazing sermons that are spiritual, they are youthful, and they come across and we all understand what you're saying. Did you go to university and maybe get a degree in English?
I did get a degree in English. And yeah, absolutely, I did. So, I mean, look, I went to, in a way, very not particularly Jewish educational institutes for most of my life. I went to St. Anthony's, a little school in Hampstead, until I was 13. Then I went to St. Paul's, traveling an hour or so each way in Barnes, the other side of London. And then after taking a gap year in Israel, I then spent my university years, I was studying English literature at Oxford. So, you know, a lot of places with saints in the title, a lot of kind of august English institutions, but they did give me that love of language. You know, I think the moment that I think about most for cultivating a love of language and actually cultivating a way of interacting with language that's become very important to my Judaism. I think of the moments when I started at the new scary school. I mean, not a new school, a historical school, but it was new and scary for me at St. Paul's when I was 13. And suddenly I was going from a small school round the corner that was in some ways fairly liberal, to all this travel, very strict school, St. Paul's, very formal, very bright, a lot of people in the year, and everyone stood up on my first day when the teacher entered the room, which I wasn't familiar with. I think I just had a lot of nerves, I mean, natural teenage nerves, and also being in this new, slightly frightening environment. And during that first year at St. Paul's, I had a wonderful English teacher called Ms. McLaren. And she helped me to find that love of language and literature. And it felt like English was less technical than the other subjects. It was actually, you know, you talk about a love of language, but actually what I felt was an invitation to listen carefully to voices in text, that being a similar and even an inviting act for listening carefully to other people, and also an invitation to listen carefully to myself and try and find words that help me express myself or help me think about how I'm doing and put that forward, or help me have fun. And all of that I really needed amidst those teenage nerves and that scary school. So having that love, I began to, I took my essays then very seriously because I saw, oh, I really like this, my papers. So I would always read them to my father, he was an older dad. So my dad passed away now, not long before I started at Westminster Synagogue. He passed away maybe 3.5 years ago now. Yeah, exactly 3.5 years ago. And when I started, when I was 13, he was already into his 70s. I would read every couple of weeks, whether it was a creative paper or an analytical paper. I would go into the living room and read them to my father. And he would give me good feedback. He was very critical because, as we said, he was good at language. He cared about it, and he cared about ideas. So he would correct things. He would ask me to read bits again. Why are you saying it like that? Can't you say it simpler? Often saying it simpler was the message. And I would get very frustrated, even though I initiated this every week, and would kind of storm out eventually, to make all the changes that he had suggested, and then come back and read it to him. And yeah, those were moments of great pride for him and for me. And I'm so grateful for those moments. And they anticipate what I found in Judaism, because yeah, there's love of language there. But there's also, I'm so grateful for that time I had with my father. And I think, what I found in Judaism is a kind of a love of language and ideas and of stories and literature, which is not to give the academy a hard time, but which is not coldly academic, which doesn't exist kind of primarily on the page, that actually it's in the talking out of the words and the ideas and the thoughts that you both become closer to the person opposite you, and you both become closer to these ideas and words that you have in between you in the middle, the text, so to speak. And this is the thing that I really, maybe more than anything else, have found and treasure in Judaism, is wisdom and language with other people, and the love of people reinforcing the love of wisdom, and the love of wisdom reinforcing the love of people.
But you think out of the box. You are not the normal kind of rabbi who just is very biblical. You integrate today's living, today's happenings, and it comes through. Did you have, okay, so you left school. Did you go to Israel? Did you have a gap year that you actually went to Israel?
Yeah. So the 10 months in between school and university was spent in Israel with a mixture of learning in a, well, I guess technically an educational institute for people who are 18, but there was a lot of fun as well. It was kind of pre-university, getting to know people from all over the UK who were all in Jerusalem, learning leadership, and receiving updates about the situation in Israel-Palestine and some of the dynamics there, and studying Judaism and Jewish texts. So I did that for 4 months, and then for another 5 months, I was living on a kibbutz, on a communal.
Did?
Yeah, lived on a kibbutz.
Oh my goodness, were you planting vegetables?
I would say I probably in some ways am particularly unsuited to be a good kibbutz worker. I was, the first day I was helping the kibbutz electronic, but then mysteriously it was suggested by the end of the day that I maybe find another position within the kibbutz. I think, you know, my early love of language didn't come with an early great capability to fix things manually. And then I was working in the trees, the date palms. I was on a kibbutz, which, like many kibbutzim, like many of these kind of communitarian living villages, does have date palms, and that's a major part of their produce and income. So that was getting up early in the morning and kind of chopping thorns off trees.
Not enjoying it, I'm sure.
It was fun.
Not the getting up early in the morning.
The getting up early in the morning was, could be very grueling. I mean, with good volunteers from around the world, that's the fun element, and having those conversations.
Sure.
Yeah.
When did you decide that you wanted to become a rabbi? Was it before you went to Israel? Was it while you were still at school? When did that germ come through to you?
Yeah, it was after university. So I, you know, my life partner, Leah Jordan, is also a rabbi, Rabbi Leah Jordan.
Which I think is amazing. I'm going to stop you there because
Sure.
I've never ever heard the expression of a life partner. I know that you're married to a rabbi, and this to me makes marriage sound so beautiful because it is a life partner. It's a partner in life that you share everything with, whether it be rabbinical, whether it be anything to do with life. It is a life partner. And quite honestly, if I ever got the opportunity again to find a partner, whether it would be a marriage or not, I would use your expression of a life partner because that is special. So forgive me for interrupting.
No, I really appreciate it. I'm very glad. And so she as a rabbi, Leah as a rabbi, she, I think, intimated that she might want to become a rabbi. She had that sense much younger than I did. You know, she, when she was studying for her bat mitzvah, when she was really, as a 12-year-old, preparing to read Torah, she had a wonderful teacher, a cantor, someone who sings in the synagogue, who really She could tell from his character and from the way that he taught and engaged in the text that there was something deep and important in this Judaism business. I did not exactly have that experience. I made some good friends when I went to Cheder, when I went to supplementary religious education when I was younger, but we often gave our teachers a very hard time. I'm not sure that I really. It was the youth. Yeah, no, exactly. And that's an age-old tradition to give your religion school teachers an incredibly hard time, I think. And so it was really after university. So with me, it wasn't that kind of young epiphanal moment of, oh, this is what I want to do. And it was in some ways quite rational in that during my last year at university, like many other people studying English literature, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do. And I had really good experiences in my Jewish youth movement. I mean, Jewish youth movement could sound a little bit strange or odd to people who haven't experienced that, but this was essentially a group that outside of school I went to summer camps and went on trips with. So this was also the group that I spent my gap year with. I went on a Europe tour when I was 17 for 2 weeks with this group. And say again, Stanley, sorry?
That was lucky.
Yeah.
Because it didn't happen that often that you went on a group and that group is still your group.
Yeah, I mean, those groups, they are quite special. I mean, this was one called RSY Netzer, which kind of a reform Jewish youth group, a progressive Jewish youth group. And they're special because, look, I mean, first of all, you get to meet, more than one gender. You know, I went to St. Paul's and St. Anthony's in the English school system. So you're mainly, I was mainly just with guys the whole time. Yeah. And so you're meeting other people, and it's a world of informal education and value formation. So whether you're on a camp in Wales or a trip going around Prague and Budapest, you're really discussing, whether it's history or text, you're always discussing, what does this mean to you? What does this mean to the sort of life that you want to lead and the sort of values you have? You're having those discussions with your peers, and your leaders are generally only a few years older than you. Your leaders are university students and young adults. So it's a real world of forming people and relationships and friendships and ideas and values, with Judaism being a kind of major source for those conversations. And I had really had good experiences there, and I was finishing my English literature degree. And so there was an opportunity to work for that youth group. And I knew that some of the work I would be doing would be really focused on people and discussion. So it would be training university students to then provide leadership training in turn for 14 and 15-year-olds. And this seemed like something that there was certainly a level of continuity from learning about ideas at university, and I would get to really work with people and feel that I was in something. And so I did that, and I mean, there were sticky moments in my year and a half working for the youth movement, because you're designing camps for hundreds of people, again, that was organizationally a step up for me, but actually to find that I was working with people and they were the main focus of the work, that it wasn't just, oh, I want to kind of have this conversation so that I can submit this report or so that I can get this result. But the main aspect of my work was focusing on people, developing people, and also sitting with people and having these discussions around ideas and learning and Judaism. I realized
still continuing now, but
exactly.
This, strangely enough, a little bird told me that your mother spoke to an astrologist, and that astrologist said that you would be a religious leader. Now, how I know that I believe in astrology and spiritualism and things like that, but how did this person know and tell your mother that you were going to be, and look the position you're in now? Incredible. There is something to that science.
There must be. There must be. I need to think on it more. You know, it's something that I mention in my biography, even though I'm not at all certain about exactly how that science works and how that person knew. And yeah, again, Leah, for example, she will sometimes read out to me my monthly star sign from.
What are you?
So I'm Sagittarius. Yeah. And she has someone that she follows that writes on people's star signs. And yeah, I mean, they're very good. The report on what's going to happen to me in the month ahead often sounds wise and like it's what I need to hear. But that's definitely something that Leah embraces much more than I do, I guess. But I think there's something in it. Or put it this way, maybe this is sometimes the way that things work out how they're meant to be.
It's beschert.
Yeah, it's beschert. Yeah, really, and I like that expression.
It is meant to be, but usually women are far more into that than men are. So it's interesting that it does read it through to you. You hear, you listen, sometimes you absorb it, other times you just let it go over your head, and then somewhere along the line it suddenly hits you. But that's what Leah said. That's what I heard.
Yeah, exactly. It can motivate you as well. I think that's sometimes how beschert works as well, is, you know, someone puts out an idea and that idea encourages you to become what you're meant to be. So that, it can work.
We're in terrible times at the moment. You're in terrible times in the UK. Tonight we go into our lockdown, which is quite horrendous again. We can't move out of our towns unless we go to the doctor, the dentist, and you have got to have verification, paper verification that you're going out. Otherwise, our fines are horrendous. And so you've been through this, but you've given the power of in the community during the pandemic. You gave so much power. Where did you achieve that power from? Where did you find that power? Because so you were going through it as well.
So I think
and spirituality that was helped the pandemic through the tough times.
So I think there's two important sources of power here. There's the power that so many of us and our members have drawn from the community, and I think what you say is exactly right. As soon as the first lockdown happened in the UK, we had a large number of volunteers in the community who stepped forward to ring hundreds of other members of the community to see how they're doing, to see if they needed any shopping, to see if they needed any medicine. And then coming out of this, a number of those volunteers have carried on calling those other members of the community, forming these relationships that actually then have helped both people to really find joy and relationship during these incredibly difficult times. So I've frequently been moved by hearing from members in the community how this synagogue, how Westminster Synagogue, has been a real lifeline for them during this time. How it's given them.
For me, I must tell you, I'm not in England. You know, I'm in Spain, and without the Friday nights and Saturday mornings, in the 4 months that I was in lockdown, you kept me going.
That's
you really, really did. I don't know how I would have coped without it. I had only one day of feeling unhappy, not depressed, unhappy, but I knew the reason why. It wasn't why am I unhappy? It was, I got the gift of help through the week via you, your team, and all the members. Although I don't know them, I see them by face. I don't speak with them, but I feel I'm part of a community. And for that, I want to say thank you.
Well, thank you.
Because you've done an amazing job. WESTMINSTER Synagogue really has. And initially, I was brought up Orthodox.
Yeah.
I actually was bat mitzvahed a very long time ago. The first female in South Africa that was bat mitzvahed.
In the whole of South Africa, the first female?
In the whole of South Africa.
Wow, Mazel Tov, that's a huge achievement.
Yeah, one day I will send you a picture of, there were 4 girls and we all got bat mitzvahed together. So, but I have moved over to your side and very happily, and I can speak to you about anything, which is also so amazing. Because in my day, I couldn't speak to my rabbis the way that I've spoken with you and speak with you. So it just shows how things have changed and how you have changed things for people even at my age.
Okay, that's really wonderful to hear. That's wonderful to hear. I'm so glad, Sandy, that
and then you do adult education, and you are empowering the youth as well about Judaism in today's world, not yesteryear.
Yes, yes. And there is, I mean, it's challenging because when you ask me where do I get the kind of the strength, the spiritual strength, the inspiration to be able to try and support others in the community and make sure that the community is such a beacon for people at this time. I do think that I get a lot of that. You mentioned adult education. I get a lot of that from my relationship with Torah, just simply from being able to learn, you know, for various reasons. This last Shabbat, we had two B'nai Mitzvah, right? So in the morning we were celebrating actually a mother and daughter.
A mother and daughter. I've never seen that in my life. And I was glued to my Zoom. I felt so warm. And it was a mitzvah. I'd never seen anything like that. And really, it was special to me.
Yeah, very beautiful that the two of them, I mean, the daughter now 14, 15 years old, and then the mother significantly later in life, both over the last few years, completely opening themselves up to changing hugely as human beings. You know, they're opening themselves up to transformative change, learning lots, learning Hebrew, putting themselves at the center of the community, incredibly moving. And we also had a bar mitzvah in the afternoon as well. And for a number of reasons, it was extremely stressful Shabbat. I don't like my Shabbats to be that stressful. But what I knew during it and what I knew before is that there would be a point at the end of the day when I would return to my routine of starting to read the Torah portion for the week to come. And, you know, that is something that's incredibly important to me, that I have my own practice of learning, that there are moments, sometimes with scheduled Havrut, essentially study buddies, that I have regular times on Zoom when we learn together out loud, personally, but with the thing in the middle, a little like I did with my dad. And I also have times during the week when I'm reading myself, just really looking close at text and asking my questions, and when I can, scribbling down my questions and thinking, what can I learn from this? And probably more than anything else, I get great strength from the Torah. And it's for a couple of reasons. It's number one, I mean, I love the text and it gives me company, right? And I find it's incredibly interesting and draws me in. And also, when you talk about how our synagogue, you know, allows people to bring their full selves, I find that Torah allows me to open my eyes to the world as it is. Right? It's a text. I mean, it's been ruined for many of us by our encounters as children. It's an incredibly grown-up text. I mean, it's only, yeah, like a month ago, at the very beginning of the Jewish year, the very beginning of the Torah cycle, that straight away we're encountering this global catastrophe of the floods, right? I mean, the Torah wants us to know that in this world we can confront incredibly difficult things, and that we can confront them.
And we come out the other side.
And we can come out the other side. And we can come out the other side. And the Torah is a text that really, I'm always trying, you know, and I think we're getting there. I'm always encouraging this approach in the community as well. The Torah is a text that demands our questions, even when we're saying, no, I don't like the way this figure has behaved in the text, even if that's the very ultimate figure, right? It demands our theological, emotional, intellectual interrogation. And it's often out of those questions that we find answers that really resonate in our life. But I found in Torah and in my spiritual practice a real encouragement to recognize the world as it is right now, as well as the way that we want it to be. Right?
It's a very difficult world now for everybody, no matter what your age group is, no matter what your religion is. It's difficult day by day, and suddenly there's something else that hits you in the face, like you are locked down and you can't do this and you can't do that. But as you say, you know, we just have to carry on. It's a new world, it's a new life, it's a new beginning, and we're all making history together. We're not enjoying it, but it happened millions of years ago as well.
Yeah, I mean, it happened millions of years ago, and actually, you know, what I've found for myself, I do myself no favors if I pretend that it's not happening, or if I look away. You know, there's so many moments in the Torah when we're encouraged to recognize the messiness of this world. You know, there's I mean, the very first line of the Torah, we learn that the world was built on formlessness and void. Right? And there's various rabbinic commentaries that encourage us to see that formlessness and void is not so far away, right? It's not that the world was created and the formless and void was consigned to a distant memory, but actually it permeates our world, right? And there are things right now that we're finding that are painful and that are difficult and that are messy. And I feel worst when I pretend that that's not the case, right? But actually, when I find in the tradition or in the times during the day when I have my spiritual practice, when I find the invitation to look at the world and say, things are hard right now, things are not normal. And I mean, they've never really been normal, but right, especially right now, they're not normal. And the best I can do right now is see that. And then also out of that honesty of vision, there might be invitations to do something about it and to recognize that other people are having difficulties as well. That's been one of the major contributions of my learning and my spirituality to how I do in this pandemic, because it allows me to be open-eyed, and it is difficult and it is painful.
What do you do to relax, to just unwind and be a normal young man? Okay, you're always a rabbi, but how do you relax? What do you do that just enables you to clear your brain and be normal?
Yeah, I mean, I should do the things I do. I play football. I was trying to do that once a week. I mean, I was enjoying, it used to be that I would really make sure that we finished the conversion classes on time, because I knew I had 40 minutes to rush to Swiss Cottage to be able to play the five-a-side football, which was, you know, the one core time in the week, every week, when I can just completely get out of my head. And yeah, I'm quite competitive, not very good, but quite competitive. So I enjoy running around, getting my foot in. That gave me real pleasure. Not been able to happen so much. Can't happen again now. We played, I watch a lot of football as well.
I won't ask you who you
I mean, you
who's
can,
your team, because I'm sure you and I are then going to have
huge arguments. Huge argument.
I'm Leeds. Who are you?
I'm a big Tottenham fan. I mean, since I was.
Oh, you're not Man United.
No, I'm not Man United.
Okay, well.
I'm a Londoner, right?
You're a Londoner. Stay that way. Okay.
I'm always dubious of Londoners who support these teams in far-flung places.
And you're also vegetarian as well. And were you vegetarian as a child?
More or less. My dear mother, who did most of the cooking. My dad could do some dishes, but would sometimes burn them and was sometimes castigated for the meals were meant to be too fatty. Although I especially loved his eggplant parmesan. He made a great eggplant parmesan. My mum did most of the cooking and gave us fish. And it was when I was around 12 years old that it felt inconsistent to me, and it felt easy enough for me personally to cut fish out of my diet. So then at 12, I became more or less a full vegetarian, and now I try and do a couple meals each day, which are vegan as well. But I'm still too habituated to the eating of cheese and egg to go fully vegan. I've not managed to find the strength or the wherewithal, but it's very important to me. I mean, my mum brought me up essentially as vegetarian, and I take very seriously the biblical mandate that we are here to protect this world. And we are living in times of serious. We're on the precipice of the world being unlivable. It already is for people in other parts of the world, and then the world being unlivable for our children. It seems like one of the things that's very easy for me, right, to cut down on, to really minimize my meat and meat oriented intake, which does make a significant difference in environmental damage.
Is Leah vegetarian as well?
No, she loves me, absolutely loves
So who does the cooking? You do yours and she does hers?
She's made the major compromise, and I probably could recognize that more in that we have our flat here is vegetarian, and that is partly her being kind to me. It's also because we want to be able to host in the house both people who are seriously vegetarian and people who are seriously kosher. And so it allows us, with all types of Jews, to know that we are a hospitable house to all of these people. We said, when we sometimes have to just get separate deliveries when we treat ourselves. And if we're eating out, then I try and self-counsel that we can go to somewhere very meaty, and I'll just get something very salady because it's not fair on Leah otherwise.
No. It's going to be interesting when one day you have children to see how that's going to turn out. But that's, as I should imagine, is still very much in the future. I'm not pressing you on that.
Well, I mean, we have said, God willing, children, and Leah has said she would be happy for our children to be brought up as vegetarians. So I think that has been.
It's again the woman being compromising, as we usually do. And I believe in a relationship, a marriage, a life partnership, there is a thing called compromise.
Yes, and it has to be mutual compromise. I mean, I think,
mutual, but mainly, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel that women compromise a lot more than men do. It may have changed now, but certainly in my day, it was compromising a lot more. One question I've got for you, which you mentioned that you have Jewish people who come in to eat with you. Do you ever have non-Jewish people come into your home? Because I heard something on the radio today about, we go back to the late Lord Jonathan Sacks, that he was very friendly with the Archbishop. And they went to football matches together. Well, they did go to a football match together. This is what I heard on BBC this morning. So I'm asking you now, non-Jewish people into your home to eat?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I also remember, you know, I grew up in all these schools with saints in the title, right? So most of my very close friends, right, are, you know, some Jews, some non-Jews. And by the way, I mean, in terms of where I get support and inspiration, those relationships with those close friends have been incredibly important, always have been, and even more so now. Yeah, I mean, I actually think of one of my best mates, Matt. His father is C of E clergy, and we became good friends, me and Matt, when Matt was studying theology at the same college as me at university, and when I was studying English literature. And so I have those relationships, and yeah, I've had some wonderful interfaith opportunities. So I'm privileged to be in relationship with some people who are doing wonderful work in the Muslim world, Muslim leaders, as well as various Christian clergy. I even have some Orthodox Jewish leaders who are friendly with me. You know, I've all across the board, and yeah, I've invited some of those people have eaten in my house. So absolutely, yeah. I mean, we are.
You're modern. You're modern. You're everyday modern in every way. The way you think, the way you absorb, and the way you look at life, and the way you transport it into your sermons, which I listen to, I hear and absorb, and have taken a lot from you.
Thank you.
It's good for an old head to get new ideas from a young brain, which I do enjoy. And I don't know how much more time you have got to give me, because I know that Maya, your PA, said to me, he works to a schedule and his schedule needs to be kept to the minute. So I don't know how we've done on schedule, but Maya, thank you so much for all you've done as well, setting all this up for me and getting on camera, which all has been fine.
Great,
have you got any questions for me?
Well, yeah, I mean, lots of questions. I'd love to catch up. I think we can do that.
Okay, but privately, not on screen.
Not on screen, exactly.
Not on screen.
Thank you for this, Sandy.
All I want to say to you is, Rabbi Benjamin Stanley, thank you for everything that you have shared, that you have given, that you are giving, and that you and Leah have a wonderful life together. And take care, stay safe, and just keep positive. I don't find, luckily, any negativity from you at all, whereas there are some people, sadly, that I seem only to be getting negativity from, which I try not to let bring me down, but I must admit there have been times of late that really I swallow hard and I think, please, please try and just be positive, because we're all going through this together. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, look, thank you, Sandy, for your positivity and for organising this conversation. I've really enjoyed it.
Okay, take care. God bless. And I see you again at the weekend.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
I do hope that you enjoyed the conversation I had with Rabbi Benjamin Stanley. I look forward to seeing you again next time. But in the meantime, stay safe, take care, stay positive, and we're all in it together, but we're going to get through it. Bye for now.